everyone. If we started off today with the really intense data-heavy talk, my talk is basically as non-data heavy as possible. I'm a journalist and I mostly write about politics, which are about as unobjective and non-data driven as possible. The Obama campaign in the United States is sort of just beginning to gear up for re-election in 2012 next year. They are expected to have the largest and most expensive campaign in US history. The Obama campaign is looking to raise roughly $2 million a day from this point until next November to spend a total of about $1 billion on the re-election campaign. Much of that will end up going towards internet work. Much of that is going to their sort of ever-growing grassroots and data-driven internet campaign. The last time around, they amassed about 20 terabytes of data on US voters across about 435 different categories of information, from church membership to gun ownership to car ownership to education level and that type of thing. But one of the things that the Obama campaign still has very little control over is something that we in political journalism spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about, and those are the meta-narratives, which are, if you are a literature, if you've ever taken literature classes, it might be a term that you are familiar with. But they're sort of the stories about stories. And this is something that I think is really important when you begin to think about branding and when you begin to think about positioning yourself within a market or personally within your career path. So this is what I'm going to be talking about at 11 o'clock today in the branding track, but I wanted to sort of zero in on one part of my talk, which is this subject of meta-narratives. Meta-narratives, of course, being the stories about stories. So one of the things that we are beginning to see play out more and more online are the impact of viral videos and viral content of whatever sort in the political sphere. So this was the, if you don't know this screenshot, this video, this was a senator from Virginia, George Allen, a Republican senator, in 2006, who basically saw his campaign torpedoed by the first YouTube moment of US politics. This was a fundraising event that he was holding down in Southern Virginia, sort of well below the Mason-Dixon line in the United States, sort of the old Confederacy. And what he said in greeting to the Democratic campaign operative who was filming him at this event was, "Let's all say hi to macaca here." Now, before this, virtually no one in the United States knew what the word macaca meant. It turns out that it's a racial slur for North Africans. Now, the person that he was speaking to was of North African descent, and he certainly knew what this term meant. So he went back to the office, posted this video on YouTube, and it became really this first YouTube moment in US politics. Now, what made it work, though, was that it didn't come out of left field, that this video, that this encounter that George Allen had with this individual on the campaign trail fit into a larger pre-existing story about George Allen, which was the feeling among voters that George Allen was already a racist. And that what we are beginning to see is that more and more these stories are coming to help define and shape campaigns. These are things that are not entirely within a campaign's ability to connect or brand themselves, and are instead oftentimes things that really will end up harming the campaign. So you can have positive meta-narratives and negative meta-narratives. The Barack Obama, of course, enormously successful in his meta-narrative in the 2008 campaign of creating this sense of hope and change. But at the same time, John McCain really struggled with this idea that he was old. He was not fit to be president, that he was sort of an old, cranky guy. And I asked one of McCain's advisors early on in the course of that campaign, what was the thing that he feared most? What was the video from the campaign trail that he thought would do the most damage to his campaign? And he said what he worried most about was John McCain tripping. That for him, McCain falling off a stage or tripping walking down a set of stairs, anything like that was going to underscore to people already preconditioned to believe that John McCain was too old to be president. And that instead, if that same video had taken place with Barack Obama, it would have had almost no impact with his campaign because there wasn't a pre-existing question. There wasn't this meta-narrative about whether Barack Obama was fit enough to be president. So you see this beginning to play out in lots of different ways. This was a campaign that I actually worked on in 2004. Some of you might have seen this video, the Howard Dean scream after the Iowa primary, after we lost the Iowa primary, or sorry, the Iowa caucus in January of 2004. Howard Dean had this unfortunate moment where he, in an overly exuberant moment, went out on the to the room, not unlike this one actually, that was packed with people, screaming supporters, and he gave what he thought was an exuberant cheer. And instead it came across on television as a crazy man scream. And that this sort of connected with a pre-existing meta-narrative from the campaign that Howard Dean was a crazy man and that he wasn't mentally suited to be president. You saw this play out in 2008 with John Edwards, who was caught in this YouTube video fixing his hair before a TV live shot for an extended period of time. The video is actually incredibly painful to watch. If you want to see the whole video, you can Google John Edwards, I Feel Pretty. Someone actually took the video, set it to the music of I Feel Pretty, and it's an excruciatingly long video to watch as he sort of continually primps and fixes and tweaks and changes his hair. And then, of course, you have John Kerry, not one of America's better campaigners, who decided that he thought that this was a really great idea to do a photo op during his summer vacation on Martha's Vineyard, windsurfing, which I don't know what Germany is like, but this is not a sport that most Americans participate in, and certainly not a sport that is accessible to sort of the average American. So John Kerry really struggled with this throughout his campaign, were these opportunities where he did something that really made it look like he was not in touch with ordinary Americans. I'm going to stop it there and chat a little bit here.
The meta stories that exist, can someone change the meta story? Is there anything you can do about the meta story? I mean, if everybody thinks you're the crazy man, can you ever not become the crazy man?
Well, we've actually, normally the answer is no. Normally that they're very, very hard to combat. What we have actually seen, though, just in the last couple of weeks is a rare opportunity where that does change. Barack Obama, of course, has struggled really since his election, and even before that, since the campaign, about the idea that he was born in the United States, that he was not, in fact, that he was born in Hawaii, that he's actually American by birth. And so he has struggled with this throughout the last 4 years or so, and finally, 2 weeks ago, of course, released his birth certificate publicly to prove that he was born in the United States. Now, one of the reasons that he'd done this was that the meta-narrative had become so strong and so defining that fully 45% of Republican voters in the United States did not believe that he was born in the United States and thus eligible to be president. Now, that number has been halved since he released his birth certificate
So there's still a quarter of...
So it's still a quarter.
It's amazing, isn't it?
My personal view is that I think that roughly that quarter who believe that he's not born in the United States probably overlaps relatively well in a Venn diagram with the 30% of Americans who believe in extraterrestrial life.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Just one small question to wrap up. Your own personal branding. You write yourself on your site, you enjoy sailing, it's very elitist, cooking, Scotch and Graham Greene, and you've written a book about the FBI, so you're sort of a James Bond branding there, right? I mean,
yeah, I wish.
the book about the FBI is to come out soon, and are the meta stories in there as well, or this is pure investigative journalism on your side?
Pure investigative.
We're very interested to hear more about your topic. Thank you.
Thank you.